Hello and welcome to the first edition of Journalist Hangout. This week, I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the program, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje inaugurates new Kano Emirates, says court order belated as Emir SANUSI returned home from Saudi Arabia. Reports indicate that only 10 states in Nigeria are economically viable, 17 insolvent, as RMAFC says states have the right to demand a review of revenue sharing formula. And later on the show, Manchester City peeps Liverpool to English Premier League as three Africans, that's Aubameyang, Mo Salah, Mane, share golden boots. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Mayor Akipelu, and Wale Adeoye. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Well, for every change, there is a resistance. The mighty Kano Emirates was last week broken into 5 emirates, courtesy of the signing into law of the Emir's Appointment and Deposition Bill 2019 by Governor Abdullahi Ganduje. The move is meeting some resistance from some quarters, but it appears a little too late. Not even a court order to maintain the status quo could deter Governor Ganduje from installing new emirs for the 4 emirates at Rano, Bechi, Karai, and Gaya. According to him, the order was belated as the process for the appointment and installation of the new traditional rulers was already concluded. Meanwhile, the Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi, who was out of the country when his kingdom was split, has returned home from Saudi Arabia. Here is a story of the installation of the new emirs by TVC News correspondent Ibrahim Issa.
From 1 to 5, the number of Kano emirs have increased. Kano government had split the Emirate Council into 5, and now first-class emirs have been appointed. Rano, Gaya, Karai, and Bichi will now be ruled by Abubakar Tafida II, Ibrahim Abdul Qadir Gaya, Ibrahim Abubakar II, and son of late Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero. Residents of Kano witnessed the symbolic installation ceremony held at Sani Abacha Stadium. The government said the decentralization was important to improve security, create jobs, and revive history.
Some of the traditional rulers, historically, they used to be independent. Another issue that we have taken into consideration is the developmental aspirations, the need by the people, and the challenges of development.
The new emirs advocated for an improvement in agriculture, education, and security in Kano State. The state would compete with other developing states if development in these sectors are achieved.
I wish to assure His Excellency and the entire people of Kano State that we will work with the Emir of Kano as the chairman of the Kano State Emirate Council to promote the development of the state and ensure peaceful existence of our people.
The Kano High Court had issued an order holding this event. A restraining order had prevented government from engaging in activities that would amount to splitting the Kano Emirate barely 15 hours before the commencement of the installation ceremony. But the Kano State government still went ahead, insisting appointment letters had been served to the emirs before restraining order. This ceremony marks the beginning of 4 new dynasties in the state. Question many have asked is, can the court hold an act of parliament given assent by the governor?
Some call it restructuring the Emirates, some saying decentralizing the Emirates. But Babajide, it's crystal clear when that court order came on Friday that Governor Abdullahi Ganduje had already made up his mind, and the government of Kano State they've already perfected the plans to actually create these new emirates?
Yes, I think the order of the court came a bit too late. The question to ask is, what were they doing when the bill passed the first reading and the second reading? I, for one, I knew at least one whole week before this thing happened that it was going to happen. And clearly they were hoping that the intervention of Alhaji Aliko Dangote would convince the governor to back down. You know, when we had this misunderstanding the last time, IBB, the VP, Aliko Dangote intervened, and in the end, they convinced the governor and the House to drop the corruption charges against the Emir, and peace, they achieved peace in the end, and the Emir stopped going around belittling his governor as he had done in a few places. So they probably were hoping that with the intervention of Aliko Dangote that the Assembly and the House would not go ahead with the plan. But if the court decision had been made, like on Tuesday, for example, or even Wednesday, maybe they would have obeyed. But clearly, the horses are bolted out of the stable before that decision was taken, and it felt really like an afterthought. They were too slow. Remember the first time when an attempt was being made to probe the governor over the dollar scandal.
It probably went to court.
They went to court quickly, and the probe was stopped. But in this case, I think they wasted too much time. They should have got the courts to take a decision the moment the House began to even sit on the matter. That should have restrained the House from taking any action in respect of the splitting of the Emirate Council.
And it was signed into law after the House
But
decided.
they waited for far too long. In my view, they should have moved faster than that. And that's what a lot of Kano are saying, that, look, why did it take so long before they went to court? We all saw them signing the bill into law. Why did they have to wait? From the first hearing, they should have moved in to get the court to stop the process. But you don't, after the process had ended and letters had been sent out to the affected emirs, now say that they should stop the process. The process had been completed. They're just waiting for the inauguration, you know. So this is my view about this. But as we've seen, the emir, in my view, should. I don't want to say the emir shouldn't have taken up this position, but clearly by its nature, it's not the sort of emir that likes to be gagged. But once you go into the traditional institution, you can't begin to speak like an activist. But
or an economist.
SANUSI, yes, an activist economist, because some of the things, you remember when he said that that it's so easy to become a billionaire in Nigeria, that some people will just cross their legs and call the CBN that they should bring dollars. And once they give them dollars and they change it, they become overnight millionaires. You know, he said that early in the administration of President Buhari. I mean, there's nothing wrong in what he has said.
Around
yes,
chipping.
yes, that is. We all know that it happens. If you have someone who is strong in
But not
government.
from him.
But they don't want to hear an emir because they know how influential they are. by their actions, they can turn the people against the government. The people in government don't want to see an emir appear to disrespect constituted authority or turning the people against them. You remember this, even Sultan Dasuki? Abacha accused him of insubordination. And what did he do? He came late to an event at NDA where Abacha was giving a speech. And with his kakaki, with his people blowing kakaki, yes, and Abacha was reading. And there was this Sultan late, and it wasn't the first time. Abacha was forced to stop reading because the noise, when you see the convoy of a Sultan coming, the noise and all that, Abacha was forced to stop reading. And as he cited the Sultan, he looked in the direction of Lawa Jafaru Isa, who was the military administrator of Kano State. He just looked at him, and that guy knew what to do. The next day, a query was waiting for the Sultan. And within a few days, the Sultan was removed.
Wale, now, looking at the alacrity in which the State House of Assembly actually passed, some people are saying that, oh, it was pretty fast, that went through first reading, second reading, and the governor signed it. And before you say Jack Robinson, the emirate has been constituted. Now, what I'm asking now is that I expect some level of resistance from the Kano people to protect their emirate if it wasn't a popular decision. But from what we are seeing now, what we've seen so far, I've not heard of any kind of form of protest apart from going to court, you know?
Well, I think first of all we have to realize the importance of the Kano Emirate. It's one of the oldest traditional institutions in West Africa, dating back to over 200 years. And in fact, before 1807, when the first EMIR emerged, there had been traditional institutions that have been there for over 1,000 years by the Hausa Habis in Rano, in Gaya, in Karaye, before the jihad that now brought in the emirate. So as far back as 1820, Kano was the center of commerce in the whole of West Africa. It's a very important institution. So what the governor has done is to change the geography and history. And I think it's a very significant step that the governor took. So if it really hurt the people, we should have seen resistance. We have had a similar instance in the past when Abubakar Rimi removed or attempted to remove the EMIR.
It was even a query.
It was a query, and in fact, there was a riot which led to the death of Dr. Bala Mohammed, I think.
Yes.
You know, and the governor had to quickly reverse that trend. You have a governor that derives his legitimacy from the free will of the people, elected into government. You have a traditional ruler that derives his legitimacy from history and tradition. That history and tradition is subsumed under the Nigerian constitution. That is the new reality that we find ourselves. So, if you are appointed as an MI or as an Oba today, you have to realize there's a higher authority. It's an unfortunate reality, but that's where we find ourselves today. The modern state, has control over traditional institutions.
According to the 1999 Constitution.
So, if you want to go into politics, you must realize how dirty it is. So when you are occupying an exalted position, we always advise that caution must be taken. You see that the Emirs always put on a veil. You hardly see their teeth.
Yeah, they talk less.
You hardly see their teeth in those days. In fact, an Emir hardly talks.
Yes.
And there was a kind of aura of mysticism, built around them. But that has been demystified by some of the Emirs through their utterances, dabbling into political affairs, dabbling into issues that shouldn't actually affect them. If you feel that the people are, the policies of government are not okay, there are channels that you can express yourself. When the governor traveled to China to sign a project for light rail, 1.8 billion, it was a subject of ridicule by the MI openly. And in fact, the MI also said at the time that people should not vote for people with integrity alone. So I think at that point, you're already cutting, drawing the unnecessary attention of people in political offices. So I think the MI should have been a bit more cautious, in the statements that he makes. Now, the splitting of these MIs into 4, I think also favors some traditional institutions that have been looking for some sort of autonomy and sovereignty over the years. So we should not expect people to express disenchantment because it favors a large section of people in Kano. And that's why if you see what is going on in that stadium, it shows that there's some level of, acceptance, from the step that has been taken. But then we have to ask ourselves, it was submitted, the petition was submitted, the request was submitted on Tuesday. It was passed into law the second day. There was a committee that was set up. On the Wednesday, it was adopted. Well, is it constitutional? Yes, it is. They can decide to fast-track a bill depending on how significant they think such a bill is. We can also ask the question, why is it that the judicial process was so fast that within a very short time, you had pass a judgment that so it's neither here nor there. But I think the bottom line is that
let me take it to Mayor now.
Be more cautious.
Mayor, I gather that when the first some prominent northern leaders actually converge on Kaduna to broker peace, that the governor, the first time, the governor kept telling the emir that, look, it's very important that these seats, that we keep the respect of these seats, that it's very important that we should protect it, that the man should not dabble into this kind of politics. That was the first bout of the problem. Right now, from little investigations or privileged informations that we have as journalists, we gather that the emir actually showed his hand in kind of politics.
Yeah, let me start by saying that the emir made the one fundamental error. When you get involved in politics, and it becomes we and them, we versus them, and you lose out, there's price to pay for it. It is rumored that during the last election, that the emir did not really support the governor. And the governor is aware of that. So when he wins election, there must be payback time. That's how it works. When you want to get involved, that is why why they advise emirs and nobles and traditional rulers not to get involved in politics. Because when you get involved in politics and you lose out, there will be consequences. So what we are experiencing now is the consequences of that action. But I believe that there's no big deal in the new Emirates. I don't think the emir is going to lose much. Why did I say so? The who does not make the monk. You can call a lot of people emirs or other emirates within. You can carve out the emirates in Kano. But the people, it depends on if the people see the emir as their emir, it will be the foremost emir in Kano. What will probably lose has to do with the funding of the Emirates. Before, all the local governments contribute to the funding of the Emirates. Now, each local government will contribute to the Emirates where the
zone is just 10 now.
That's probably what is going to, yes. Instead of 40, it will not get 10. That is the only thing I think it will lose. But in terms of prestige as the emir, it won't lose much. But then we should not forget that apart from being the traditional ruler, he's also the spiritual leader of the Tijaniya sect. And the faithful will still see him as the leader. So that's what is important. That is why it is important for the emir to learn from this mistake. It is important for the emir to learn from this. Let it stay the way it is. Yes. Let him not overstretch himself. Let him not want to fight it. Or let him not want to fight it. Yes, let him not want to fight the governor. Because if the things get worse, they may depose him.
Yes, Judy, I wanted to ask you that, the emir just arrived from Saudi Arabia. Yes. Anything you might have read before now, you might not have said anything before now. But we know in my grand interviews, he might start fighting back right now. But some people will tell you that this is not the end of the whole restructuring. If you see that bill, it was built to establish, an act for the emirate, and even the deposition. There's a process to depose you, one. And number two, the emirate anti-corruption case still against him. I think they are still looking into that matter.
No, the emir has come out clearly to say there is no corruption case against him, that the Rolls Royce and other things that they see him riding were actually bought for him by his friends. He also said that the reconstruction of the palace is doing it on his own, drawing from his overdraft at First Bank. He also commented about the picture in which he was shown to be romancing a woman, that the woman in question is a daughter of the immediate past emir, and that the woman simply likes photos, this and that. So he has defended himself.
He said that the woman is even his wife.
No, not that one.
Okay,
there's another picture. Okay. Okay. There's another picture of his cousin. Okay. So his cousin is his wife. That one is different, you know. But he also said it there that, yes, I know that the Northern society is conservative. You see, they do not, the society is conservative, and the emir must know that.
Of course.
The people, it's not simply, Ganduje would not have attempted this if the emir was popular. This is a fact.
Yeah.
At the time when this emir was installed emir, remember it was Nasiru Saminu that the kingmakers voted for. But somehow Kwankwaso called them and told them this is the person that we want. In Kano, there was a lot of bloodletting as a result. He couldn't go to the palace
for a long time.
For a long time. So people must know this. So the conservative elements in the Kano Emirate, including the clerics, Islamic clerics, they can barely stand the emir. Some time ago, the emir sent his daughter to represent him at an event. And they accused the daughter of not even properly dressed. And they were saying, look, you have district heads. Why wouldn't you send your district head? Why must you send your daughter? And some comments too, that he says that appear to diminish the entire North. Remember even what he said about Zamfara, that one of the aides of the governor took him to the cleaners. It's unusual for an individual, whether you work for a governor or for anybody, to simply take on the emir of Kano. Is in the Sokoto Caliphate, is in the top 5 among the emirs. So it's unusual for someone to simply take him on. But because Sanusi is someone who wants to talk at every opportunity, these things will happen. Ado Bayero, nobody did this to Ado Bayero, because even when some of his own friends have reported the emir, I've been to the emir's palace to report on a number of occasions. People like Reverend Jesse Jackson, he was very close to the late emir. Jesse Jackson will come to town. You will not hear the emir open his mouth to speak Hausa, to speak English. Yeah, they've known each other since the time when the emir was in foreign service. But the interpreter will do the talking. It will just keep quiet there. You know, whatever the emir wants to give, like maybe is dashing him a horse or something, it's the interpreter that will say it. If he must talk, it will be his language, not speak English. So there are changes, and how have the society responded to some of these changes, things that they are not used to? The conservative elements in the North, a lot of them don't like the modern elements that this emir has introduced. Even he said it, that, okay, I know that seeing people cuddling at the beach is not what our people are used to. So if they are not used to it, they can't stand an emir doing that. Okay. Cuddling a woman is not something that they want to see. You understand? And you must respond. The woman is a wife. Yes. They don't. They can't. It will hurt their sensibilities.
Okay, I think I have MUKHTAR from Kano. Somebody should react from Kano. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. How are you doing?
MUKHTAR.
Thank you, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Let me contribute to what you are saying.
Okay.
I'm a Kano man and I know Kano politics. You see, the bottom line of it is that we are not against what Ganduje has done, but the speed of which the process has went through is our concern. And there is supposed to be a public hearing. People should be asked whether they like it or not. Yeah. And those lawmakers are not being sent there to decentralize the Emirate Council. The Emirate Council has been there for more than 1,000 years. It's not solution like that's where are supporting, but let him remove if he's found wanted, and let that Emirate Council remain intact.
That's what most of the
come
chiefs
and
are saying.
The institution remains.
That's what most of the chiefs
Our
are saying.
concern is the institutions have been respected world over. Why now? We are not seeking for additional Emirs. We are seeking for good education, good drugs in hospital, good drinking water. Nothing of this. Now this is an additional cost to the state because you have to employ people, you have to pay them, you have to give them vehicle, you have to do all these things. Whereas this money can be used to make the people happy and better. So those lawmakers are just doing it so that he can sign a pension.
I'm pressed for time. Thank you, MUKHTAR. We've noted your contribution. Ultimately, Babajide, everybody, I think the consensus, he said a point that everybody concord.
Yeah, that the probably should have been deposed instead of.
If he knows he has a problem with it,
and I said it last time we were here, some of the biggest chiefs in Kano actually went to the governor. The Galadiman Kano, the Chiroman Kano, the Madakin Kano, they went to the governor and told him, depose this man.
That he should remove him?
Yes.
His
now,
chiefs?
For some of them, they too have suffered a form of demotion because your area was influenced even as a district head. With the coming of this new, the area of influence will shrink. Yeah. So they are now saying, why punish everybody because of an individual? It's not as if...
And then why rubbish something that has been sustaining for 800 years because of an individual?
So a lot of them will prefer Kano Emirate to remain the way it was. But of course, the governor too will look at the easier approach.
I'm sure this is not easier.
No, it does. Even when people like Dangote went to him, that's what he said, that look, there are three options. It's either he accepts this, or he resigns, or he faces deposition.
I'm sure this is not the last to this story. We are going to be following it up because we have a lot of viewers down there in Kano. Now, when we return, reports indicate that only 10 states in Nigeria are economically viable, 17 insolvent, as RMAFC says states have the right to demand a review of revenue sharing formula. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. This is Journalist Hangout, and we're reaching you live from television. A continental for many political scientists have let to be known that now that Nigeria practices a jaundiced federal system where the federating units are over-dependent on the center. In the latest reports on the annual State Viability Index released by the Economic Confidential magazine, only 10 out of 36 states in Nigeria are viable. According to the reports, the 10 states with impressive internally generated revenue, IGR, garnered 808 billion naira in 2018, while the remaining got 295 billion naira combined, with Lagos states leading in this regard. However, 17 other states are said to be insolvent, as their IGR cannot sustain them without the monthly federal allocation from the center. Meanwhile, the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission is backing the calls by states for a review of the revenue sharing formula for the country. The acting chairman of the commission, Shetima Abagana, said though this may not be the solution to the quest for more revenues in the country, states have the right to demand for such review. Wally, let me start from you here. This report is saying when you combine the IGR of 30 states together, is not up to what Lagos states, their IGR in a month, and Lagos State was is doing close to 382 billion naira.
Yeah.
Compared to what they collect from the federal government a year, I think the whole year, I think what they collect is just 200 and something.
296. Let me see. Lagos 260 billion.
260 billion. And they're making 380 something. So we're looking at it. How much do you get from the center? How much do you generate alone?
Well, I think that report reflects a lot of things about the Nigerian economy. For instance, if you look at Lagos State, it gets about 146% compared with the, what it gets from federal government. While some is about 7%, less than 10% of what they generate, or what they get from, from the federal government. So I think, if you also look at the report, it shows that Lagos State is as big as about 30 states combined. Some people might argue that, well, it's because Lagos State is big, it has a lot of money, but I think it goes beyond that. I think it has to do with management of the resources that you have. For instance, when you look at the hierarchy, the oil-producing states, only Rivers could make it to the first three. So it means even states that the economies are driven by oil are not doing well, in spite of the resources that they get from the federal government. Out of the 8 oil-producing states, only 4 are viable. Bayelsa, in fact, is almost a write-off. So I think much has to do with a lot of factors. Stability. Since 1999, we've had a stable environment in Lagos State, which is conducive for foreign investment. And then I think the IGR drive, people need to learn from what Lagos has been doing, because they have put in a lot of innovation into the IGR drive, that they have been able to block a lot of, a lot of loopholes. It's not just about whether Lagos is big, it's about the creativity of people, the managers of the political economy. So, what I also see is that the states that are poor, are also associated, where you have a lot of violence. Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi, Yobe. And you also find a situation where, states like Kano, Kaduna, I think in the whole of North, only about 3 states are viable. So I think we have to begin to rethink about the structure of the federation, whether we need to, reverse back to a regional system of government. Do we actually need 36 states in the federation? Do we need 360 members of the House of Representatives? Do we need 108 people in the Senate? Because it's like there are a lot of funds going into the drain basket. So I think this is a kind of lesson for us that we need to look at the structure of Nigeria and to find a way whereby resources will go to the people instead of going to the pockets of individuals.
Mayor, some states are clamoring that this revenue formula must be adjusted. The status quo is 52% goes to the federal government, 26 to the states, and 20 to local governments. Now, the states are calling for more, but there's a problem here. For you to call for more, they must tinker with that constitution, because the responsibility bestowed on the federal government alone in their exclusive list, I think they have like, is it 68 or 58 items on that list. That means there must be an amendment to achieve that. But this revenue boss is not telling them, look beyond that. Look for how to grow your IGR.
Yeah, let me start by saying that the incursion of the military into our politics caused us so many problems. And it was that is why our so-called federal structure is defective, because we practice more of a unitary state than federalism. And it's because of the military, because the power has to move from the center. And we inherited that, and it's because of problems.
We've not been able to change it.
Yeah, we'll not be able to change it. I'm also surprised that members of the National Assembly have not thought it wise all these years to thinking because the
20 years of democracy.
Yes, the money that you allocate to the center is not justified, and a lot of states need more resources, despite the fact that yes, they need to be creative and generate more, but also they need to get more from the federal purse. But most importantly, there's no need for 36 states in this country. It is not sustainable. That is the reality. If we continue to deceive ourselves, we will get to a state where, if you remember, at the end of this administration, a lot of states could not pay salaries. They have to depend on federal government bailouts. Now, we are going to go back to that state where a lot of states will not be able to pay salaries because they are not viable. There is, within their environment, there is not enough for them to generate. Yes. Why they generate a lot of money in Lagos is because of the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos. Lagos is a city of commerce. It's the commercial capital of Nigeria. The population is there. Yes, everything, the economic activity is there. So it is easier for you to be able, though I give it to people in Lagos, they'll be able to be creative when it comes to generated revenue, and they've done well. But it's not every state that have that kind of luxury or have the environment to be able to do that. So the best thing that I think is for us to find a way, though a lot of these governors will not want to leave power or the enjoyment that comes with the office, but the best thing is for us to go back to the regions, because this country was better run when we were running regions, so that every region will generate their revenue and then send part of it to the center, instead of collecting from the center.
In real terms, Babajide, the solution Mayor is profiling might be very, very difficult and unrealistic. As at this stage, if you are talking about giving up on 36 states and going back to regionalism. Now, some of the states, we've seen some of the states that even this 30,000 naira that has been proposed, 6 months after, you get to hear what is happening. But things are, from this report, at least you can x-ray that it all is not well with most of the states that we see.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Apart from Lagos State and the FCT, none of those states exceeded, in terms of their IGR, exceeded the distributable revenue from FAC, you know. So clearly, those states are not viable, a lot of them. And it's not even the states where we have so much violence. Ebonyi, there's really no serious violence happening in Ebonyi. But Ebonyi is not viable. It's one of the poorest from the records that we see. And you see a state like Kwara not doing badly in terms of IGR. Yet it's one of the states that collect the smallest from the federal government.
So to Kwara, I think the four
states have to be creative. States have to be creative. They have to look for ingenious ways of making money. You see, if you remember when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed took over, the IGR was just about $1 billion. Was just about $1 billion naira. At that time, it was being handled by a consultant, you know. But from that, we've moved to in excess of 30 billion. Every government that has come into office in Lagos has taken it further. Ambode did not really introduce new taxes. He only made the collection of IGR more efficient. And you've seen an improvement over what he inherited, you know. So this is the thing. And even as Sanwo-Olu is going to take over, that is what Lagosians will expect, that Sanwo-Olu too should be able to take the IGR further. So this is what our states should be doing. They should look for ingenious ways of making money. Relying excessively on the center makes no sense. It just shows that a lot of the governors are intellectually lazy, and the people who work for them, they're intellectually lazy. You must think out good ideas to make money, because at the end of the day, now you can see that in the last quarter, the distributable revenue from FAC went down. Seriously. There are times when it will come to as low as 300 or something billion. There are times when it will go to like 600.
Oil prices.
You know? So it depends on and then for some states too, you can see a state like Bayelsa. because the number of local governments is a factor in revenue allocation. So because there are just 8 local governments, they won't get much.
Yeah.
But a state like Kano with 44 local governments, state like Kano and Katsina, they get a lot more from federation account because they have more local governments. And school enrollment is also a factor. They look at school enrollment to also determine, and then what you also generate, because what Lagos generates in form of IGR, what Lagos brings in form of VAT and all that, also
would that reflect too?
is a factor
Okay.
in what
You get from
what they get from FAC.
Because when you are talking about VAT, Lagos can do 80% of the VAT.
No,
of the
but
country.
it's a factor it determines how much they also get from FAC.
Okay.
Because you bring in so much, a part of what you bring in you also get part of what you bring in. So it's states know what they need to do to be able to take care of their workers. But I really fear for workers as we begin to implement the minimum wage. I don't know what will happen. All of them are saying, oh, I'm ready to pay, I'm ready to pay. We'll wait and see. It's the end of June. By the end of June, we will know those of them.
We know who is paying, who is not paying.
Who can pay.
Now, moving on now. The nail-biting race to the 2018-2019 English Premier League title finally ended on Sunday, with holders of Manchester City retaining their crown after a 4-1 whitewash of Brighton and Wolverhampton. The citizens narrowly beat Liverpool to the title in one of the most keenly contested campaigns in recent times. Man City manager Pep Guardiola joined the likes of Jose Mourinho and Sir Alex Ferguson to win the EPL titles back-to-back seasons, while Liverpool became the greatest ever second-place team with 97 points. But 3 Africans, Arsenal, Aubameyang, and the duo of Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane, shared in the glory by scooping the joint Golden Boot award, having netted 22 goals each in the season. For now, the moment belongs to Man City, and we say we held the champion again. Man City. Mayor, Liverpool lost just 1 game. And 97 points, you still couldn't win the league.
Yeah, it shows how brilliant Manchester City is. You know, I remember when Pep Guardiola came to England, some people said he cannot do what he did in Spain and Germany in England, and England was more difficult. In his first season, yes, he didn't achieve anything, but he used that first season to understand his squad, to understand how football is played in England. And last year, he broke all records in terms of goal scores, points. He was able to reach the 100 points mark. And it is the standard that he set that made it so difficult. So for you to beat Man City, you have to do something extraordinary. Because in other times, 97 points will have gained you
honestly
the league.
The
only time the only time was last year that Man City scored 100 points. This year they scored 98 points, and that is how they denied them. Yes, Liverpool had a very good team, but they made one fundamental error. Football is about winning. They had too many draws. And in these critical times, they made those mistakes. And there was a time they were 7 points ahead. But Man City was able to claw their way back because of those draws. And we have to give it to Pep Guardiola. I think he's the best coach ever.
Well, do you follow the Premiership?
Yeah, I do. I think we had 2 great teams. One just managed to have a slight edge over the other. And if you look at the 3 players we are talking about, 2 of them are from Liverpool. So I think those 3 African players also show the kind of potentials that we have in Africa if we have the right environment. So it's a challenge to us that we have the potential to also compete on the global stage. If we have the right environment where our players can can develop their potentials.
Babajide, Man City, Pep Guardiola, Liverpool in Champions League final, threshold of history.
Yeah, let me say clearly that football has changed. If you are not prepared to spend big, you will not win titles. Guardiola is prepared to spend 80 million on a single player. We also saw that Liverpool did that. The Liverpool team is stronger now because it invested significantly on players.
Significantly.
Goalkeeper, they invested more than 70 million on Alisson. That was a record. It was a world record at that time. Goalkeepers don't cost that much. You know, before Adesabalaga of Chelsea. Now, they also paid 75 million for a defender. That was also a record, Van Dijk. So you can see that has made a big difference. When they bought Mane from Southampton, you know, for about 32 or 37 million, you know, an African record too, you saw clearly that the team was beginning to show ambition. And then they sold Coutinho to Barcelona. They were able to use that money to bring in good players. Fabinho and Naby Keita, between them, cost almost 100 million.
Yes.
Just two players. So if a team, if a team sits down and you think, oh, it's simply to groom players, if they understand themselves, they'll deliver trophies, it's not going to happen. Football has changed.
What has changed? Sir
Alex Ferguson won titles after titles with the 1992 FA Cup winners, David Beckham and the rest of them. Someone said at that time, this was Alan Hansen that said, you don't win anything with little boys. But those boys won title after title. All that he did was he put Cantona, Cantona, you know, as a kind of motivator. But that time has passed. The teams that are doing well are the teams that are buying big. On full-backs alone, I'm not trying to take anything away from Guardiola. Guardiola bought 4 full-backs.
For 50 million pounds each.
And both of those boys are not even playing. Look at Danilo, the Brazilian. When last did you see him in action?
So a rich reserve.
He was making his team strong. Making his team strong by buying big, spending so much money on players, some of them will end up on the bench. But the team is rich in depth, you know? So it's been a fantastic season. When you look at even the battle for 4th place was very close. The battle for Golden Boot, very close. The top 2, very close. So it has made for a very, very interesting season. And someone was telling me that Man City will be stronger next season. But I'm sure that other teams too will be stronger because Liverpool pushed them right to the end.
1 point.
Just 1 point. So the point when, in January, you know, the Man City lost about 3 games in a row.
Yes,
and then December. After that, they stopped losing and played, I think, about 14 games. They won 14 straight games. That is the difference maker. Liverpool lost only 1 game to Man City. But at the end of the day, Liverpool realized that 1 point edge, you know, they could not surmount it. So we look forward to an even more interesting
next season,
2019-2020 season.
Mayor, what's the problem with United?
Yeah, I think the problem United has to do with the problem United has to do with the natural logic that when you get to the peak, the only way you can go is down. After Sir Alex Ferguson left, you know, United could not get, because United could not get it right. Even when they brought very good Vanguard, they brought Mourinho, but they
didn't bring the right people.
Yes, but you see, the problem is that, one, they have an aging squad. That's part of the problem. But the problem again is that it will take time for them to rebuild. That team, that all concrete team that dominated the Premiership had reached its peak, and they could not go beyond that. So now it's obvious, because they've become just an ordinary team. So it's only one time that they were in second. Most times, they shuttle 5 and 6 now with Arsenal. And so it's the same thing with Arsenal. But like I said, if you have a team and you think that only talent, there's a limit to what talent can take you to. If you don't buy, that's the problem with Arsenal. When David Dean told them that, look, the reality now is for us to be able to bring in people who can invest money. And the club said, no, we are not going to go through that route. Now, after playing championship football for about 19 straight years, now for the last 3 years, Arsenal has been unable to meet the top 4. And if they don't invest, because they have a very, 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 very stingy owner, if Kroenke does not invest in that team, they will not play championship football, except they go to win Europa. That's the reality. Because
they've not won the league for more than 10 years. Even
the other teams, the other smaller teams are threatening. So you will see people, because you will see like Leicester, they're going to like Wolves.
They're going to Portugal, they are bringing in talents.
They're going to give a lot of problems like West Ham, like a lot of teams like Watford. So you will see that the competition was even more difficult next year. And it's only in the Premiership that anybody can beat anybody. On a good day, the team at the bottom can beat, because it's shocking that a team like Cardiff, who has already been relegated, will go to Old Trafford and beat Manchester United.
Wale, one thing I noticed that we don't have people playing top-flight football in this English Premiership, as in Nigerians, as in commanding regular share the way it used to be in the days of Kano, Stelesen, Babairo, and Co. What's happening to our own football?
For me, I think it's a reflection of how weak we are at the home front. We've lost the hits in the past few years, you know. Nothing appears to be striking, even in terms of our performances. You know, I mean, the Eagles, either the senior Eagles, the Golden Eaglet, you know, because at a point, you notice that even at the African, you know, the continental level, we are making inroads. And at the junior level, you know, we go to international competitions and we win. But now it's like there's a kind of flooding fortunes of football in Nigeria. And there's no way that will not affect our performance at the international scene. So I hope we'll be able to reclaim this lost glory, maybe with time. But I have my fears, because I don't think we are doing much at the home front.
Today, Alex Iwobi, Kelechi Iheanacho, these guys, they simply did not come to the party this season.
No, I think Iwobi did well. Sometimes as a super sub, to come in and change the game. Even this last game, he played well. He's still a young player. He's coming on. And his team, Arsenal, did not have a great season. They may eventually win the UEFA, but they lost far too many games for a great side. So, the average teams, if you are losing so many games like that, that's not the Arsenal of old. Remember, the Arsenal of old played a whole season, started another season, and didn't lose until after 49 games. You know, so, but this is the Arsenal that even these days, they will lose 10 games in a season. You know, it's no big deal to them losing 10 games in a season. So the team has to rebuild. Both teams have to rebuild. No. He is also an Arsenal supporter. But he knows that I'm saying the truth.
You're saying the truth.
You know, it's the truth. It's the truth. The problems of Arsenal and Manchester United are related. When I tip Arsenal to win the Europa League, just the way Man U won 2 seasons ago, because that's their best bet to enter the Champions League. And I think they have a better team than Chelsea. And I think that in the last few games, they've always beaten Chelsea. So I tipped them to win Europa. But those teams, those 2 teams, in order to compete, Man U and Arsenal, in order to compete, they must match or attempt to match the spending of Liverpool and Man City. There is no 2 ways about it. If they don't do it, They should just forget the glory years. In any case, Arsenal have not won the league in so many years. More than 10 years they've not won the league. You know? So that is the no, is it not the truth? When was the last time they won the league? You know? So, or is it less than? I say more than 10 years.
Tottenham has not even won the Premiership at all.
So to compete, you must match the spending. Otherwise, next season, and that will be very bad. You just hear that Man City won again. Although we are hearing that Pep Guardiola may move to Italy.
No.
You know, he likes this thing. Once he has conquered an area, he doesn't stay too long.
No, but this one is different because the people running Barcelona there are the one running Man City.
Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Wale Adeye, thank you for your contribution. And Babajide Kolade Otsinojo. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.